Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your time. It means so much. And I am continuing to just bring amazing, fabulous women to your ears. And today is no different. So my sweet friend, Elizabeth Marth Tarara is here, and she and I met, a year ago, which seems like a decade, at one of Gina DeVee's retreats in Naples, Florida. And we have been in this mastermind together for the past year. And I have just, I was going to say grown to love her. That took a second. I adore this woman. She's so fabulous. And we have spent countless hours connecting and chatting and encouraging each other. And I'm so excited to introduce her to you here. Easy for me to say. And I'm also really thrilled to announce that she will be the guest speaker at Supper Club on November 5th. So that is super exciting and fabulous. Did I say the 5th? The 3rd, Friday, November 3rd for Supper Club. So a little bit about Elizabeth. Elizabeth Marth Tarara is the founder of Sacred Freedom and an emotional and spiritual transformational coach for women. Before her journey led her to this path, Elizabeth was an interior designer for over 2 decades. As spirit would have it, Elizabeth has now discovered how she can combine 2 of her passions, beauty and transformational growth, to help women even further by helping them to create not only lives they love, but environments that reflect the true beauty that they have found inside their souls. What we transform on the inside must be able to flow outside of ourselves and manifest as beauty in our surroundings. Hence, why Sacred Spaces was created. Elizabeth's education includes a BA in interior design from Purdue University and postgraduate degree from Sotheby's, London in fine and decorative art. Elizabeth is also a certified Conscious Uncoupling coach, a certified Calling in the One coach, a certified emotional and spiritual growth coach, and a trained shadow work facilitator. I cannot wait for you to enjoy time with Elizabeth as much as I do. My sweet friend, Elizabeth, I could not be more happy to see your beautiful face and to share your beautiful light with my beautiful community. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm so glad to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
It's so fun, and I haven't seen you since we were together in Paris.
No, but we will see each other very soon, right?
Yes,
so
we will.
I
know. I'm so excited. Okay, friends, Elizabeth is going to be our guest speaker at November's Supper Club. So all the links will be in the show notes of how you can get your spot at the table for that. But I am so excited to have you, of course, come to the Phineas Wright House, and also just to hear how you are saying yes to yourself in this season.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm very excited to come to the Phineas Wright House. I feel like I've been hearing about this beautiful creation for over a year now. So I'm excited to be a part of that. How I am saying yes to myself in this season. So you've invited me out to the Phineas Wright House several times since I met you in Naples. And you understand you're a mom. I have two kids and life is busy. And we were just talking, right? There's always a reason why not to.
Right.
And one of the things that I'm learning and stepping into is to, well, in your words, say yes to myself, right? Like we get to go on these beautiful trips and there's plenty of reasons why not to. And then the reasons to go and all the beautiful experiences and transformation that happens on those trips. And so one of the things that I'm trying to be very intentional about is how I spend my seasons and my holidays, because I think time can go very quickly. And if I'm not in that intentional space, then before I know it, it's like that season's gone and I didn't do a lot of the things that I wanted to do.
Right.
And in that, my family life has changed a lot over the last few years. So the holidays don't necessarily look the same as they once did. So I'm taking that opportunity to create more of what I want. Before I felt like I was more in a space of obligations of that I had to do.
Sure.
And I'm not in that as much. So when you had mentioned that this opportunity, to come, I was like, I really have wanted to create a different feeling for myself and different experience for myself around Thanksgiving and Christmas. And we'll just stick with those two. And so
Right.
I thought going to Boston in this experience and creating this time to be with you and do fall things, that's one way of saying yes to myself. So, but travel, just to expound, just not on that weekend, but I love to travel and found many reasons not to travel. And I think, going to Paris was one of them. And even allowing myself to do day trips around where I live. I'm in Northern Illinois. So really giving myself permission to go and have lunch at a restaurant that I wanted to try, or even along the lines, there's a florist in the suburbs and they do seasonal floral arranging and different things, and they do workshops. So I haven't done that, but really being intentional about how I want to spend my time is a way that I'm saying yes to myself.
I love all of that. I have so much to say, as is typical when you and I are together. I love that you mentioned travel. And of course, travel is my new boyfriend. I'm completely obsessed and I really enjoy it. And it's not in any form of escapism because I love being here as well. And I also don't just want to travel anywhere. Like I have some favorites. And as you know, I love France. As everyone listening knows, I love France. And it is something that, similarly to exercise, similarly to my morning routine, it might be a challenge to go do that, but I never regret that I've done it.
Right.
Yes. So
Absolutely.
it's so good. And I love that we are taking these opportunities that you're right. It's easier to stay home. It's easier because nobody has to figure anything out for themselves if mom is in the building.
Yeah.
And your kids are getting older now and more self-sufficient, and it can be a challenge to kind of catch up with where they are and what they need based on what our habits have been.
Absolutely.
A really silly example is I am a person who does things the same way every single time. Like it's just what I do. And when Amelia first joined our family, she was 2. So obviously I was helping her get dressed. And I find even now, she's 9. If I walk into her room when she's getting ready and I'm just chatting with her, I instinctively go down on my knees on the floor in front of her dresser and I just pull her pants up her leg, like while we're talking. And I finally said, oh, honey, this is just my habit. I know that you are fully capable of doing this. But sometimes that transition is, we think it's going to be harder than it actually is. We're making it harder than it actually is. And then when they do need us, I mean, sometimes I've met women that have wanted to go on my trips with me to France. And the reason they haven't gone is, well, what if somebody needs me? Like, yes. Oh my gosh, you need you. I need you. Like, let's go.
I love what you just said, though. You need you. That's so important. I think as women, we are there for a lot of other people. And for myself, there was a period where I wasn't showing up for myself and I wasn't my best self. I wasn't my best mom. I wasn't my best wife. I wasn't my best friend. And so once I did learn how to start showing up for myself more and be there for me, and even if it's in just small ways at first, then if my cup is full, I'm able to then pour into to others. So you're absolutely right. And it is funny, my kids, it obviously, when I started traveling more, was a bit of a transition, but now, I mean, it's almost like I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, they're so self-sufficient. They're so like, they're actually fine. Like I leave and they're totally fine. So, and yeah, I mean, it is funny. And my kids are older than Amelia. I have a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old. So, but, yeah, and I've had to then step into the space of being like, okay, this is good. Like, this is different and it's good. And then learning how they need you in different ways, right? I don't know if you've, been through that. So like the homework, or what are some of the other ways to connect, and that they do still, require some of mom. So,
right. I mean, even this is reminding me, because Amelia has been spending weekends with her dad, and then she's with me during the week. And so there's just a different cadence. And at first, when she would come home, or come back to her house here, they're both her home. She, I was trying to make up for lost time, or, well, you don't have to get your own snack just because you do that at dad's. Like, let me do that for you, or and I, it's like, wait a minute, let's just let her evolve and be the queen that she is. And when she does need me, she can ask. And when I need her, I can ask. It's so good. I think just because I said I do the same thing every time, I do try to get that back, because that's my routine. But just having that pause and having that recognition that this is a fluid situation. This is, I mean, maybe because she was the topic of my prayer for over 2 decades, that for such a long time, I was more acquainted with the idea of her than her actual presence. So when it changes and evolves, I get the opportunity to change and evolve with it. And there's a different time in their lives where their changes are so associated and in tune with our changes as the mom. If something's happening, or we move, or like in my house, our marital status change, like those were changes that were kind of happening to her, happening for her, all of that stuff. But she was not the catalyst, all to say. And now she is the one that is implementing a different way of doing things that's more in service to who she is now and who she is becoming. So she's transitioned from, building fairy houses in the woods to designing dresses in her art studio. And that's a beautiful transition.
It is. It absolutely is. It's reminding me, I don't know, when she was young and people would say to me, as soon as you get used to one stage and know what you're doing, it switches. And
oh, shoot.
Right.
That
and
is true.
I found that so true. And now having a teenager, right? And then an 11-year-old who's like, whatever they call it now, a tween. So a pre-teenager.
Right.
It's an adjustment. And just as you're saying, it's these transitions, and I'm learning them as they're learning them. And then I'm learning how to be me. And so it's evolving with it. And it is exactly right how it's supposed to be. But then like I have to acknowledge my feelings, not to them, but like around that, right? Like I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's this energetic, I don't even know what the word is. It's just interesting. Life is interesting, and it is with them, and it like sounds like with Amelia, it's always evolving in some direction.
It is. I agree. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that I love that you are practicing knowing what you want and doing what feels in alignment for you, especially with regard to travel, before they go off to college.
Yes, absolutely. I think that I got to the point, life changed for me pretty dramatically after my mom passed. And so it was at that point where I really started to learn that I wanted to say yes to myself. And so opportunities were arising. And I don't know that I was quite taking that, but I knew I didn't want to wait. I knew that I wanted to start living my life. There had been a lot of years of caretaking and a lot of years of different things, which I'm so grateful for and blessed that I got to be a part of. And there was a time where I was like, there's a lot of other things. So yeah, I didn't want to wait until they were off to college.
I'm so glad. And it's a beautiful awareness to have, because there's just so much that is modeled for us in our own families of origin, but also in our communities of you just buckle in and you stay the course. And then as soon as your kids go to college, then you can have your life, or, you and your husband can go travel or do all the things. And, obviously we know we're not guaranteed any time, but we often have really close personal reminders of just how accurate that is. And I think we were globally reminded with the pandemic and having just this, not even a pause as much as a zoom, like a magnifier on everything. So whatever was great got better in some ways, and whatever was bad got worse in some ways. And so I think a lot of people are transitioning from the way they were doing things to something that feels more in alignment. And sometimes that comes with a pendulum swing until you kind of right the ship and figure out what is going to work for everybody. And then, of course, once you figure that out is when it will change again. So,
but it's true. And the other piece to that, and you and I have talked about this before, I want my kids to see that I have desires and a life outside of them, because they need to have that when they become parents. Like they need to know that even now as kids, like what they desire and their passions and their loves matter, and that gets to continue on. And so learning, like as we all have our own conditioning, I didn't necessarily see that. And I knew that I wanted that to be different. And I think that's important. So when we do say yes to ourselves, even in the smallest way, there's, they may not even recognize it now, but it is registering in their subconscious somewhere.
Right. And you have this constant feedback loop.
Absolutely.
Because they are the ages that they are. There's Like you're getting it. I mean, you are, as a parent of young teenagers and as an entrepreneur, like you are in this crash course of personal development and getting insight on your every decision and movement all day long.
That is the perfect way to put it, Wendy. I'm going to have that perspective shift when I'm like frustrated and like, what is going on? I'm like, no, this is good, right? I'm in the crash course of personal
You
development.
are. You're in this like 1-day intensive
Right?
every single day.
Yes.
Right.
Love it.
Right. And it is, I mean, it's just a mirror of
Mhm.
what we need to be aware of in ourselves. And
Absolutely.
it gives us the opportunity to use our voices as well. I was just asking Amelia um, if she could please add a couple of words to her sentences for me. So if she could say, I'm just curious why this, that, or the other thing. And I said, if you could just use the words, I'm just curious, before you ask me why I'm doing something, I feel like it's going to fall on my ears in a way that is going to help the tone that comes out of my mouth, because I don't like to be questioned. Well, there's that. I don't like to be questioned. I love to answer questions. I love to respond to curiosity. I am also curious. I do spend my days moving about from one to-do item to the next. And even when I'm on these beautiful calls, I've got a pile of to-dos over here, and I'm looking out the window at several piles of to-dos out there. And so when I am asked in a way that feels like an interrogation instead of an invitation, then I respond sarcastically. And I don't want to do that, but I have found myself saying, when she asks me for something or asks me to do something, and I'm running, it's like I've got 50 pounds of chicken feed in my arms, and I'm like opening the sliding glass door with my elbow, and she's asking me for something, and well, let me, turn the TV off and put my wine glass down, and then I'd love to attend to that for you. And I don't want to be fresh, because I obviously don't want her to be fresh to me, but it's a 1-day intensive every day.
It is, but I love that you are also giving her tools and words that are just going to help her in her communication. Because why is such a question that doesn't generally lead to positive responses, especially in certain contexts. I mean, I know it does in some way, but why does generally feel like you're being questioned, or it can have shame around it or different things. So you like sharing with her, I'm curious. I just learning that from a young age. It's brilliant.
And she's a quick study, because now she'll say, Mom, when you're finished with what you're doing, could you please do this for me or help me with this? Which, you know what that does? It makes me put down what I'm doing and attend to her right this very moment, and then I'll get back to my thing.
Yes, I love it.
She's so fun. Well, it's so funny because, of course, there's none of the things that I wanted to talk to you about. So I would love to talk to you about, speaking of transitions, actually, and the way that we're doing things and then how it evolves. You are transitioning a bit in your career, but in a super aligned way, similarly to how I was a wedding planner for 30 years. And although I am not planning weddings anymore, I am using those skills to pull fabulous vendors together for my clients when we're in Paris, or to create a beautiful barn dinner, or a really engaging, fabulous stay at the bed and breakfast. So there are those tools and experiences are definitely assets in what I'm doing now, even though it's changing. But I would just love to hear about just where you came from and what you're moving into and how those are interacting with each other in aligned ways.
Yeah, well, thank you. So I was an interior designer. I mean, I still am an interior designer, but I had a specifically oriented interior design business for over 20 years. And I'm transitioning into emotional and spiritual, transformational work with women. So the alignment with that and shifting a little bit of the interior design into creating spaces that align and are I want to say the word container, and that's not what I'm looking for, but a space really that allows you to do inner work, that touches all of your senses, that creates this atmosphere for what it is you're trying to achieve. And how those align, with interior design, basically you are helping people to figure out what they want to create, the feeling that they want to create in their homes or in their whatever space it is. And so it's actually a very emotional relationship with when you are working with somebody as their designer and then your clients. I mean, I really got to know my clients really well, because in order to create a space for them and help them to figure out what they want, because a lot of times people don't know what they want. They have this feeling or this look or but you have to help them streamline it, and then you can have couples where one wants one thing and one wants the other. So you're really investigating and you're really learning about them and helping them to figure out what it is they want and then help them to create it. So essentially, as a coach, I'm doing the same thing, really. I'm helping people, women specifically, that's my heart. My heart's for women who are in either, I call it like a midlife awakening, create what they want, whether it be, I'm a conscious uncoupling coach. So whether it be releasing a relationship that needs to look different in some way, whether that's divorce or, a breakup, healing from that, or it can be other types of relationships as well, to, calling in the love of their life or the life that they want. And so it's finding out what it is they want and then getting to know them, right? Like what are their past patterns? What are the things that they liked? What didn't they like? So it's just transitioning kind of from spaces to people, but it's a lot of the same, like you said, questions and tools. And my favorite part, people would ask, like, what's your favorite part of being an interior designer? And I'd always feel like my clients, like my relationship with my clients, it's so special when people let you into their lives on whatever level that is. And there's just, that's my heart. I love to know people's stories, whether I'm creating a space for them or whether I'm helping them to, look at their life and do things differently. So.
Oh, I love that. And I love that it really does tie into everything that we've been talking about, because when you live with people in your house, they are growing and you are in constant transition. Sometimes it's in super slow motion, so you don't necessarily recognize it. And then sometimes as we were talking about travel, sometimes traveling, leaving your space and then coming back to it allows you to see it in new ways.
Oh,
and,
absolutely.
Just besides trends changing and, you no longer want your whatever hunter green kitchen or whatever was popular whenever. I mean, I remember my first house, like 1991, had seafoam green paint, which then I went ahead and sponge painted on top of that to add
you did.
texture.
Wait, I need to know what color you sponge painted on top of it, though.
Hunter green, except on the accent wall, I added burgundy.
Yeah.
And that went with my country oak shelf with my little cow.
Mhm.
Like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
It was a whole vibe. And so sometimes, you have to move, and it happens in our closets.
Everywhere.
It happens everywhere. And it should.
It should. Everything has to evolve, right? And like even I love antiques, so that's part of like my, my past and my studies and stuff. And so like everything has to evolve, but there's certain pieces that get to stay, right? Like and then there's stories. But like your story about that, like I love that story, right? Like I'm gonna remember that and the sponge painting and like and that, yeah, and it does evolve, and I love that.
It's good. And you get to keep the things that mean something, and giving yourself permission to release items that aren't in service to you anymore. And they can
Absolutely.
be a blessing to somebody else. They can be whatever they're going to be, but they also, I'm doing A Course in Miracles. I'm
Mhm.
on day 49 of year 2.
Sure.
So I've already done it once, and it's blowing my mind. I can't believe like just where I was a year ago and reading these same things. And it's just remarkable. But the very first lessons are, you look around, this lamp does not mean anything.
Yep.
This tray does not mean anything. This window does not mean anything. And then the next lessons are about how everything, all the meaning I've assigned to it.
Mhm.
And so really sometimes we can hold on to things that don't make sense for us anymore, but we have this attachment to it that is clearly much deeper than metal and wires and a lampshade. Like there's something there, and we can take the time to investigate what, being in curiosity. Gosh, why am I like triggered by the thought of getting rid of this lamp? And why, and so I think it's so beautiful for you to have your design background, to come at it from a different lens of creating sacred spaces,
Mhm.
and then also to have the tools and the resources to guide people through the discovery of why they are in trigger over a lamp, or why do they want to get rid of everything and just start over new. Like there's some extremes are a really good indicator
Mm.
that maybe a journal prompt is in order, or some internal investigation.
Absolutely. And it's kind of coming through to me as you're speaking about this. I mean, decluttering is obviously a super important part of design when you're creating a new space. And in that you bring up a lamp topic. And Sarah Ban Brudnick was the author of Simple Abundance. And I don't know if you ever read.
Love it.
It's amazing. It's 365 days of going through the principles. There's 6 principles, and I won't get into it now, but in it she talks about,
We'll link it in the show notes though.
yes, she's brilliant. So I think it was written in the mid 90s. That was when I first started reading it. My mom actually gave it to me. My copy is like all old and tattered because I read it every year.
Awesome.
She has um a day in there, and it talks about these 2 lamps, and she hated them, but somebody had given them to her for a wedding present. And so she talks about how she had to really give herself permission to get rid of the lamps, and her husband at the time asked, why did you get rid of the lamps? She goes, I never liked the lamps. So it actually fits into like saying yes to yourself, right? Like you get to look at your environment and you get to ask yourself why I have this energetic connection, but then you also get to release it, and you get to be okay with that. I think sometimes you and I talk about lack and abundance a lot. And, we don't have to hold on to things that just because they're things, and having
Right.
that energetic release physically, right? Like actually letting go. And you said it's a blessing to someone else. If it's no longer something that like you love, like somebody else is meant to love it. So you get like, you're blessing them. And then
Right.
you are opening up an energetic space for yourself for something new to come in,
Yeah.
or just to have space. Like that's your gift. So it's all
Right.
so interwoven.
It really is. And it's fascinating when you do, you start to read about it or start to learn about it and then see ways that you can implement,
Yes.
and how much more enjoyable that is when it's your own decision than when someone's telling you to get rid of stuff
Yeah.
or getting rid of it for you.
Yeah. Which
Not
can be very
not
traumatic.
helpful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Right. I've heard once that change is only great to the person whose idea it was. Like,
Yeah, that makes sense.
but it's neat to think of, I'm going through all the closets
Yes.
in the house,
Yes.
and it's fun because I'm being reacquainted with things, and then I'm thinking to myself, oh, I was keeping this because I thought, maybe I would have the party in the barn that needed 14 of these things. And just realizing, okay, if I have not had that party yet and I've been here for 10 years, it's time to release that or throw the party, right? Like
Right?
I'm allowed to do it. I interviewed our
Yes.
Maria,
Amazing.
and she said, if you love it, you don't have to get rid of it, even if you have 100 of them. Like, oh, thanks. Okay, good.
Very
But
cool.
you need to use them. So there's this spiritual principle of the law of use,
Yes.
and how if you are, and I don't have this memorized, so please correct me if I'm missing a key factor, but just how praying for abundance or asking for something new to come in, and as you said, not creating space for that new thing to come in, that it can't
No.
happen. Like hoarding things is a trauma response. Operating out of lack is a trauma response. And it's really has so much to do with mindset.
100%. And honestly, you can tell so much from your space. I mean, whatever is going on like with us personally shows up in our spaces. And so they're so interlinked. Where, you mentioned hoarding and like just the collecting and a lot of times hoarders will have that mentality of like, I need this, like it's a sense of safety. And like, so they keep on collecting, and it actually never gives them what they're looking for, right? And so um there's emotional work then to be done, but we only, spiritually speaking, in this path that you and I are both on, like your canoe's only so big, right? Like you can only have so many things in your canoe. So if your canoe's full but you want more, you have to let go of certain things, and possessions, right, can be really hard because depending on how we were raised or had people that went through the depression, or however we grew up in like whatever kind of socioeconomic thing, like possessions can represent a lot, and it can be hard to let go and give away. But once we shift the mindset to the item, like you were saying, I mean, in A Course in Miracles, it's just an item. The energy behind it, we still carry in our heart. And so being able to let go of that does allow new things to come in better.
I'm so excited for you to come here
Yes,
and
me
just
too.
just to have fresh eyes, because I love change and I love to have things moved around. So anytime a dear friend that has fabulous sense of style, I will just say, can you just shop inside the house and move things? If you see something that you think would work somewhere else, will you just do that? and I'm going to go outside and do my chores. And then I can't wait to see, like, I'm like making myself on an HGTV show.
Yes.
But it's just so fun. So I've had my friend Jen has styled all of my built-ins, and then I took pictures of it. So if the cleaning people move something, I knew where it belongs. I didn't do it, so I wouldn't know.
Totally.
And my friend Sharon's moved furniture around, and I love it so much because you and they are really good at it. And I love it also because when I go into that room, I feel them and their energy and their love. And I know that they touched these things, and geography has us really far away, but I feel really close to them because they've done that.
I love that, Wendy. I love that.
So I'm so excited to see what you do.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. That reminds me, when I was first starting out, I had this woman, she had moved up here from down south, and she had like beautiful antiques and beautiful collectibles and beautiful things. And all she wanted me to do was rearrange things in her home. And like, I would spend hours like doing books and like, cause she had a lot, I mean, just like doing that. And it was so fabulous. It was fabulous for so many different reasons, but yes, I'm excited to come and see your space, which I already know is fabulous, but,
thank you.
I'm very excited.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. Yes. Because I've moved, obviously with the guest rooms.
Yeah.
I used to live in those closets. So I moved everything out of the closets and out of the furniture so that it's available for my guests. And, moving things through the house and figuring out, like, some things they're in a landing area.
Of course.
This room is a landing area. Our friend Maria also said, the CEO of an empire does not have her desk in a laundry room. And I said, oh, I have no idea where else to put this desk. She's like, your house is huge. There's a better, she's in her accent, like she almost went into German. So I was like, oh, I'm afraid now. I need you to tell me where I should put the desk. But I'm really excited. And there's just something about when you're ready for that change, and when you are, when you're ready. Absolutely. I'm ready to release things. I'm ready to add things. I'm ready to circulate things and have the excitement that I had when I first gained the possession, for somebody else to have that feeling now that it belongs to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's fun. And we can stage a whole little sale inside the barn, and it can be dreamy and serve hot cider and all that good stuff. And it'll be just fun.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Perfect.
Yay. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Thank you for your beautiful time. I'm so excited to have people get to know you even better at November Supper Club, and have them see the magic things that you do in the room of your choice. That'll be so fun. Aww. I'm so excited. But how can people follow along with what you're doing and get involved with all of those things? Where would you like us to send them?
Well, first of all, I'm so grateful and honored that you asked me to be on. So thank you so much. I love you. And sacredfreedom.life is my website. And then
.life.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, I just switched it. It used to be something else. And so, sacredfreedom.life. And then, on Facebook, it's Sacred Freedom. And on Instagram, it's Sacred Freedom for Her.
Perfect. Well, we will link all of that in the show notes, and pardon me, as well as the link to get a seat at the table in November for Supper Club. So fun.
So excited.
Thank you so much, Queen. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site, or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wright House and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.